So the last navigation tool I want to talk about is focus. And there is no action, there is no tool for this. It's kind of just a pro tip, I would say. It essentially allows you to move the scene, to click on the scene in a way that lets you center a point. You'll notice that a lot of our actions, focus, or all of our navigation actions, if you don't click on anything, they do their action about the center of the world. So to do this with a mouse, all you have to do is either right click or middle click on any point. So if I right any part of the scene. So notice I'm going to right click. Well, first off, let me show you. Let me do an orbit real quick. You'll notice if I do an orbit right now, we orbit around kind of the center of the subfloor because I'm starting my orbit on the background. Now, if I were to right click on this point, notice that slides, that point that I clicked on slides to what we call the world center. Now, if I were to orbit around, it would, and I start my orbit on the background, so not on a point. We're actually orbiting on that point that I just centered on because that point has been moved to the center of the world. So notice it's pivoting around kind of that bottom corner of the stage. Now let me do it up here. I'm gonna click here. It'll slide to the center, and now I orbit it around. This will become particularly important if you're working in a stereoscopic environment like a Z-space. What that will do is it will make this point it'll make this point become what they call the zero parallax plane, which means it's the most comfortable spot to look at. So clicking to focus on a point is really valuable, especially if you're building a scene and you want to author it in a comfortable way, and we'll get into that later. But if you were the author setting up this scene, you want to use that right click or middle click quite often to focus on whatever it is you're looking at. If you're using a mouse or if you're using a touch device, it's a double tap to focus. So if you're in a touch device and you double tap anything, it's just like doing a right click to get that point to focus. Finally, if you find yourself completely lost in the world and I slide this thing off to the side and I've lost my stage because I've gotten crazy, if you double click on the background with the left mouse button. So I'm going to double click on the background. It will recenter the world. So everything will come back into the scene. So you can double click on the background anytime. So let me get this over here. I'll double click on the background and it'll refocus the scene back in front of me. Get me all back to where I can see everything. With a touch device, it would just be a double tap on the background to get refocused.